Hey guys, I know I've been off of here for a bit, but there's just been so much going on. But before I get started with this video, I want to wish Breonna Taylor, what would have been her 27th birthday yesterday. What I wish for her is justice. Now, if you guys aren't aware of who Breonna Taylor is, she was a first responder in Louisville, Kentucky. And in the middle of the night, Louisville, Kentucky Police Department conducted a no-knock raid to her home. Now, first things first, it was not the right house. They conducted a no-knock raid in which they shot her 8 times in the middle of the night. Her boyfriend shot back because he didn't know who, he thought that burglars had entered their home. She was murdered, of course. He was charged. The charges were later dropped against him. And no one has been charged with her death. So I don't want people to forget how important it is to continue to fight for justice for Breonna Taylor, as well as others. All right. Sometimes Black women get lost in the sauce. They get lost in our fight, and we forget that they too need justice. But I just wanted to mention that I have been to several protests over the last few days, which is why I haven't been on here. I went to one yesterday, and I'm making different signs and get my poster board. My sign specifically was for her yesterday because I didn't want people to forget that there's still so much work to be done. What I was worried about over the last, few days, especially after all 4 officers had been charged in George Floyd's murder, is I was afraid that the crowds would disperse and they would let up on the gas. But I am so happy to see that people are still got that same energy. They're keeping that same energy. And what I've been seeing all over the country and all over the world has certainly been eye-opening. And, I have had several, I don't know if you want to call them arguments, debates, I don't know. But I've just been sitting back over the last week watching things unfold, which is why I wasn't in a hurry to get back on here and talk and do any videos, because I knew that if we would just sit and watch things and just sit and chill, that people would expose themselves. Truths would come out about how people really feel. It was just a matter of time. And I'm so glad that celebrity culture is being exposed, and hopefully the standing culture that we have for celebrities will eventually die off. I really, really hope it does. And I'm going to get into that a little later in this video, but I just kind of want to just talk about, this week, or last week, I should say, the last couple of weeks. So as you know, George Floyd's murderers were arrested, and the main guy, Derek Chauvin, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, I don't really care, but he has been charged, or the charges have been upgraded to 2nd-degree murder. Now, a lot of people are wondering why not 1st-degree, and I'm just thinking that if they overcharge him, you are looking at an acquittal. And so I think the right thing to do was to be 2nd degree. I think 3rd degree was a little too light, which I'm glad that they did go ahead and upcharge. But I knew 1st degree murder was not going to be what they did, because that would have allowed some wiggle room for him, which could have led to an acquittal. All right. Because with 1st degree, my understanding is that, was the intent to go and kill him. And that would have been really difficult for a jury to, without a doubt, say, which is why 2nd degree seems like it is the better fit, and hopefully Hopefully there will be some convictions here. All right. It's not over. It's not over. And I've been watching. I watched a little bit of the funeral, which I have to be honest with you. Yeah, it was sad, but it was a bit uncomfortable for me. And I may be in the minority here when I'm saying, but I just wasn't feeling the whole celebrity surrounding this man's funeral. Watching Kevin Hart and Ludacris and Tiffany Haddish, that was just, and Tyrese dressed like Huey P. Newton. It was just uncomfortable for me. Just watching the celebrity of it all. That you know, they wouldn't have breathed on this man or looked this man's way in any other instance. And I know some people was like, no, celebrities were just, you know, rallying and showing their support. I didn't care for that. I'm sorry. It just did not go over well for me. I did listen to, even though I don't care for Al Sharpton, I did listen to his eulogy, and I was moved by that. And, but some of the other stuff surrounding it and surrounding this case, it's just been a lot. But, like I said, I'm glad to see the people out here. I am glad to see the people out, you know, and just not letting the foot, you know, not taking their foot off the gas. Now, a lot of people have been, of course, focused on the riots and the violence and the stuff like that, which in my area where I live, a few stores were hit. The downtown areas were hit. And, you know, I've kind of gone back and forth about stuff like that. Now, I don't want to see any small businesses falter during this time because, you know, we've already come off a 2-month pandemic. So that would be difficult for anybody to recover. But to be perfectly honest with you, what I have to say is, listen, folks tried it the other way, right? They tried the quiet, peaceful protest. Cap kneeled quietly. Didn't, you know, they tried it your way. They tried it their way, right? That wasn't good enough. People kept saying, no, don't do it that way. We tried marching. It's like, no, don't do it that way. But now, I bet you any kind of money, they're listening now because they may not care about black, but they damn sure care about green. So, if you got to clear out folks got to clear out a Target, they got to clear out a Walmart who, again, during this pandemic, weren't even really paying their people they was paying their people pennies to risk their lives, right? They might make more in unemployment. And I'm not sitting here, my cousin lost her job at Walmart recently because the Walmart on the south side of Chicago got looted. It got cleared out. All right. So somebody's sitting at home with like 50 jars of mayonnaise, right? But they feel like they got something. You know, you put people in the house for a couple of months. People lost their jobs. You send them one measly check for $1,200 and you're like, okay, then you got this is like the perfect storm. This was the perfect storm. And then George Floyd's death just kind of like boiled over. It just boiled the country over and people just popped. And there's a lot of white folks out there. White folks really was kind of fueling this. I saw all kinds of white rioters. The people in Minneapolis, the person that broke up the AutoZone, that was a white dude, right? So you have white agent provocateurs out there starting this shit. And people want to focus on black people looting and rioting. I'm just like, but they tried it your way. But you paying attention, aren't you? You're paying attention. And material possessions should not be more important than lives. And it really exposed folks this week because you started seeing, you know, I saw like a lot of the celebrities when it was just Minneapolis, it was like burn the shit down, burn it up until they started coming to Atlanta. Then it was like, oh, whoa, don't touch our shit. Don't touch our stuff. And it's like, I started to see the classism and they started putting class over race. Now, again, I am not sitting here saying that I wanted to see anybody's small business burned down or looted. What I'm saying is that you have to understand that people were at a boiling point. And yes, there were people that were just taking advantage of the situation. We're going to have that. But let's be clear. This country was founded on looting. This land was looted. Okay. Some of the shit that you see in museums today were looted possessions that did not belong to the United States of America. Those belong to other cultures that they took and put in our museums. Okay. And violence happens all the time. It's called war, right? So I can go on and on and on. The American Revolution basically got kicked off by the Boston Tea Party, right? Where these colonists dressed as Native Americans and dumped all the tea and burned shit up. So this country is founded on that premise. All right. So when I see the rioting, the looting, people talking about, I'm like, you know what? Y'all seem to have a clear case of amnesia, or you're clearly picking a side. All right. Nobody wants to see their neighborhoods burned up. I don't want to see my neighborhoods burned up, but enough is enough, and people are paying attention. And what's important is that, like I said, people don't let up off the gas. While I see all these big corporations and companies donating millions and millions of dollars to racial equality programs, I'm like, see, that's where people are screwing up. Because to me, what the hell does that mean? Donating millions of dollars to racial equality? What program is that? And you are not going to fix racism by throwing money at it. I'm sorry, but you can't. They wanted to donate something. This would have been the perfect time to give money to those people that need to clean up their places, to revitalize those neighborhoods, to clean up the mom and pop shops and the black businesses that may have, suffered during this time. Right? Because there were some people that lost a lot of stuff during this time, not just for the pandemic, because that already almost knocked them out. Then you had people coming through taking stuff. That would have been a perfect time to say, let's give that money to those people. You can't throw money, millions of dollars, and say we're going to fight racial equality or fight racial injustice and stuff like that and think that you're going to fix racism by putting money into it. I've been watching a lot of these protests. Like I said, I've been at them, and I've been seeing the cops kneeling and stuff. I'm like, that don't impress me. None of that impresses me. It's performative. It's performative. And I can't believe people are falling for it. Seeing people, they write the Black Lives Matter, in Washington, D.C. All of this is performative, because if nothing changes and policies don't change, none of this means shit, because they can still kill your black ass under that Black Lives Matter sign and on that Black Lives Matter street. Simply because, right? You see how Trump is militarizing the police. It's a done deal. It's been done. So watching cops kneel, that's symbolic, that's performative, but it doesn't mean a thing if that same cop goes back into his department and they're still sending racist jokes and messages to one another. Nothing changes about their policies and how they operate under a bias. Nothing changes. So while I saw people thinking that, wow, this is great, this is wonderful, they're kneeling with us. No, they're not. They're trying to placate you because they don't want you to tear anything else up, and they want you to stop. They want you to go home, and you can't go home. We can't go home. All right. I have another protest this afternoon. I wanted to be a part of this. Right. It's not enough to just for me. Now, protesting is not for everybody. Right. But there's other things that we can do. Right. Under this video, I'm going to put a phone number where you can call the Kentucky attorney, the state attorney's office. And we can still fight for justice for Breonna Taylor, because, again, we cannot forget the black women that have been killed by the hands of the police. When I watch these protests, black women are at the forefront. You always see them in the front of it, sacrificing their bodies for it. They are sacrificing themselves for this. So I'm asking that people have that same kind of energy for the black women who are also murdered by the hands of the cops. And we can't forget that. We can't forget that. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get off of here is how these celebrities have been just exposing themselves over the course of the last couple of weeks. Like just watching them, and it's just like, that's why I felt so comfortable not saying a word. Watching T.I. call Atlanta Wakanda, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this can't get any worse. Watching Lil Wayne just basically say, well, this ain't always about race and there's good cops. I mean, just people really exposing themselves for who they really are, who they've always been. Trina saying that, she ain't scared of the cops because, she got her license, registration, and insurance. And she called, folks animals. I mean, people just really been exposing themselves. Shekinah, talking about Gucci ain't never did nothing to y'all. I can go on and on. Drew Brees, saying, well, I will never allow, the disrespect of the flag. And people now all of a sudden want to accept his apology. He didn't apologize like 15 times. And people like, oh, he didn't mean it. He didn't know. You've got to stop making excuses for saying that white people don't know. It is not your job to educate them. Drew Brees is an intelligent man, I'm sure. He knows what Colin Kaepernick kneeled for. He knows that. He chose a side. Let's stop making excuses. Now, I was a part of the protests I've been a part of, have had black and white, young and old white folks was out there, and I've had conversations with them. And I had someone say something along the lines of, I teach my kids not to see color. And I said, I'm going to challenge you about that. And I'm going to tell you that that's a dangerous thing. And they were listening. They were willing to listen. And I said, listen, you don't teach your kids not to see color. If somebody tells me as a white person, I don't see color, you run as far away from them as possible, because that's dangerous. And the reason why it's dangerous is because if they teach their children, if white people teach their children at young ages not to see color, then white kids grow up believing that we're all the same and we're treated equally. So when they get stopped and your kid gets stopped, they're going to say they must have done something. They should have done this because it didn't happen to me. Or, hey, I got into that school. You didn't get into it. You didn't work hard. You were too lazy. You didn't do the hard work. That's why. And they were willing to listen to that. So even though I feel like it's not my job to educate you on the history of racism, I do feel compelled as a former educator to say that to white people when I do have a conversation. I don't want this to be a colorblind society. I want you to see me. I'm black, and I don't mind you seeing my blackness. That's important to me, right? And so that's just something that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm going to do another video separate from this about Trina and some of these celebrities. That's just really, listen, that's why I knew that if we just stood back long enough and we just chilled, we would see people show their true colors. And we did. We saw it. And I was grateful to just sit back and chill. So, like I said, I just been busy with, just being out there and just watching this whole shit show. Just watching it. But like I said, let's not let up. Let's continue to fight. Breonna Taylor still needs justice, as well as other people, men and women out there who have not received justice. All right, for their murders by the hands of cops. We need to not let up. Okay? And so I'm going to leave you guys with that. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I will definitely see you guys on the next video. And I want to say that I love you. And you might say, well, you don't know me. Well, people hate and they don't know people. So I can tell you that I love you, not even knowing you. We can do that, right? We can say to each other that we love each other, just like people can hate each other and not know each other. Not know anything about each other, but can hate somebody for nothing, right? We can love people for the same exact reasons. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.